Hey guys, Joe here with JoeMartinMVC, and today we're going to take a look at 3 of the industry leaders for different cameras used in things such as YouTube and Twitch. So starting off at the very middle, and the one I'm staring at currently, is the Sony A6400. To my right, or I believe this would be the top of the screen, is the GoPro Hero 8 Black. And then the industry standard for the webcam side of things is the Logitech C920. Now, these are the 3 most common cameras as far as I can tell for using for things such as YouTube and Twitch, as well as Facebook streaming if you're one of the 7 people that do that. Now, a few things to take note of is the color and the actual width of the shot. So starting off the C920, everything's a bit washed out. You can do a little bit of color correction inside of Streamlabs, as well as OBS and any of the other platforms you use for streaming, but you're never going to really get that rich, in-depth color. There are some things that you can do to get a better look with them, such as taking an actual photo with your phone, then doing a color key and a bunch of other stuff, but that's not the purpose of this video. So let's go over to the Sony A6400, where we can see we have beautiful crisp color. Everything looks correct, there's no real issues there. The GoPro Hero 8 also does a wonderful job. It actually has a bit more of a little bit more saturation in my opinion than either of the other 2 cameras. However, some of the features are kind of diminished by this. There seems to be a bit of smoothing. And that's kind of where the A6400 really is the winner in this case, because it has the most accurate description. I don't look like a pale ghost like I do in the C920. I have my natural tan, and the GoPro does also show a bit of that. Now, if we add just a bit more lighting, we can kind of see what the difference is as well. Turn the light on. Now, typically speaking, whenever I stream, I have a key light in front of me, or my ring light, and then I have my side light over here to add some shadow depth. On the GoPro, you don't really get any of that depth because of the way that the GoPro renders in low light situations. The A6400, it's a little bit more raw. It gives you the actual color profile and the shadows. C920, no, it doesn't really have any of it. It's still washed out, doesn't really do anything for it. Let's turn that off. So one of the things that a lot of people want to look for when it comes to a camera that they're going to use, besides the color correctiveness, is what is the profile of the lens. So the C920, it's very standard, simple, straight. There's it would be the equivalent of about a 30mm lens on a DSLR camera. The A6400, obviously it has multiple lenses that you can use. I'm using the factory lens, which this, I believe, is a 16 lens. Yeah, 16 to 50. And because this is an APS-C sensor or a crop sensor, that's the equivalent of about a 24mm lens. Now, if you wanted to have a wider shot such as the GoPro here, which I'm just gonna put this out there, this is the linear mode on the GoPro. It does have a much wider one, but you already see a little bit too much of my workspace. You don't need to see more of it. But if we wanted to have something a little bit wider, you can purchase an additional lens for the A6400, which is a Pro that we'll talk about in just a moment, and be able to get a much wider view. The caveat to that, though, is it does cost more. So when it comes to the different cameras and the different functionalities of each, one of the other questions is, do I need an additional microphone? Now, in my opinion, yes. The built-in microphone isn't the best on really any of these, but we're going to go through them real quick. So let me pull up OBS here. I'm going to mute my main mic, and we're going to start off with the A6400. And this is a test of the A6400 internal microphone, and once again, the audio will not sync with my lips, but that is okay. This is a test of the C920 built-in microphone. Let's see how it sounds. This won't match up with my lips on screen, but that's okay. And so here we have the audio from the GoPro, this isn't the default microphone because we have to have the media mod enabled in order to use it with the computer. Now, I don't know which microphone this is using, if it's trying to use the stereo mic, the rear mic, or the front mic. Not sure. I can look at the settings. Regardless though, it depends on what you're doing. So let's switch back to our main microphone. All right, so now we're back to an actual microphone. This is an AT2020 USB microphone. It just plugs in via USB. I don't have a full setup yet for using anything on XLR. We're getting there. But this is about cameras, not about microphones much. So as I mentioned, just a brief little tidbit there. If you want to be able to connect these cameras to your computer, that's also a small bit of contention. C920, this is going to win the bet every time because it is just a plug-and-play webcam, nice and simple. For both the A6400 and the GoPro, it does require additional equipment in order to do so. For the A6400, you just need a capture card and an HDMI to mini HDMI cable. Nice and simple, you plug it in, works beautifully. GoPro, however, you also need that same equipment, so you need a capture card to go from HDMI to mini HDMI, but you also need the GoPro Media Mod, or if you're using GoPro Hero 7, the mic adapter, which has the mini HDMI on it as well. Excuse me. So that's the other thing. When it comes to these cameras, if you want to modify them in any way, the C920, not a whole lot you can do. It's going to stay as just a basic webcam. Not a whole lot's going to happen there. A6400, it is a mirrorless DSLR, it's lightweight, and with any other sort of DSLR camera, you have your options available for you. So you have things such as different lenses, you have your different battery options, you have your microphones you can attach, you have different body grips you can put on, and that allows a lot of customization for whatever you're needing to do. The GoPro, oh man, there are a lot of different options on the GoPro. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the one recommendation I have, don't buy from GoPro unless you have to, because if you buy from GoPro, it's very, very expensive. Most of the things, with the exception of pretty much the camera and the media mod, can be bought from somewhere else, whether it's Walmart, Amazon, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, wherever. If you have a 3D printer, you can even print a lot of these and it will work just fine. You will save yourself a ton of money because the official GoPro accessories are insanely expensive. For example, holding onto my green screen behind me is the actual clamp. Is the clamp for the GoPro, except I'm not using the official GoPro one, which I believe is $30 to $50. It depends on if you find it on sale. I'm using just a simple Amazon one, which was 10 bucks. And honestly, I think it's stronger than the GoPro one. Same thing with like the GoPro suction mount, things such as that. So when it comes to recording with this equipment, there's a few different things that you may want to consider. Obviously the C920, it's only going to be good as a recording device if you are sitting in front of your computer and doing some sort of like broadcast or something like that, you know, a vlog on your computer. If you want to be on the field or make videos, anything like that away from your desk, you need an actual camera, whether it's an action camera, your phone, the A6400, you know, a DSLR, and that's something to consider. So one of the other things a lot of people consider is what resolution am I going to be recording at? With the C920, you have an option of 1080p or 1080p, that's about it. With the A6400, you have a few different options. You can do 4K video, you can do 2K, you can do 1080p, I believe it even goes down to 720. But there is one caveat. You can only go up to 30 frames per second on the 4K video. If you want to go to 4K 60, you have to come over to the GoPro. The GoPro Hero 8 and I believe also the 7 are capable of doing 4K 60. Now, depending on what you're doing, for the most part, you don't need 60 frames per second. Because for a lot of people, 60 frames per second looks unnatural. It's a little too smooth. A lot of people will either do 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, which both cameras can do. The other aspect of it is if you want to change your angle of view. So as I said earlier, the GoPro, it has this linear view, which is this super wide shot, or wide angle, which I can't change it because I have to like reach back and actually grab the camera, which is way too wide. With the A6400, you can get your myriad of different options. You can also have the ability to zoom in. For example, if I take the A6400 and just go up to 50 millimeters, oh, that is my eyeball. Beautiful. Okay, you can go up to 50 millimeters with just this stock lens, and depending on what lens you go with, you have a lot of different options. So that's something to consider. One of the other things is battery life. The GoPro here, it's been on for, about about 20 minutes because this is take 2. I forgot to adjust my audio on the first one. It's probably down to about 40% and probably ready to die any minute now because battery life just isn't great. And GoPro batteries are kind of expensive. When it comes to A6400, you get about an hour of recording time per battery, and batteries are pretty cheap. You can pick them up for anywhere from $10 to $20 online typically. But you can also buy a power adapter for the A6400, and with most cameras as well. You just put that in, plug into a power source, and you have unlimited runtime. Then you might be thinking, well, I'll just plug in a power adapter to my GoPro and start recording. Yes, but no. Because if you are recording and you have a battery inside of the GoPro, it actually will not charge while the GoPro is recording. If you want to do batteryless recording, you have to take the battery out, plug a cable in. So as long as your cable doesn't get knocked loose, you're okay. But you have to remember to remove the battery or else it will die within about 20 to 40 minutes, just depending on what you're doing. So the other fun fact or fun thing to consider is the GoPro is an action camera, meaning it is meant to be cooled off, usually via air, because you're doing something that is quote unquote action oriented. If you're just sitting here as I am at a computer, it doesn't do too well. It's gonna start to overheat after about half an hour, or if you're recording in a garage stationary, 20 to 30 minutes. If you go back to some of the older videos on my channel, you'll hear me frequently complain of, oh, I lost this footage because the camera overheated. And that is a common issue with the GoPro. Because it is meant to be cooled via air, via actions, it can overheat. And that becomes an issue very quickly. The A6400, I have never had an issue with overheating. The only thing I ever had an issue with is when I forgot to charge it or forgot to put my SD card in. Minor details, don't forget those. So yeah, the A6400 does tend to win. But let's talk about pricing, because that is going to be a key factor. If you're just starting your first few streams, if your only focus is Twitch, Facebook, YouTube for streaming, it's hard to beat the Logitech C920. Now, with things going on, it did go up in price and it became kind of hard to find, but typically you can get this camera for about $50 to $100. Pretty cheap. Next up would be the GoPro. The GoPro, you're looking at anywhere from $150 to $400 depending on what model you go with. I do recommend at least the 7. And it's not too expensive, and you have your option of accessories. And then you have my personal favorite and the winner here, the A6400. I bought it used for $750. It still hurts me to think about that, but that's actually considered cheap for these types of cameras. If you were to buy it brand new from Best Buy, you're looking at, I think, $1,100, $1,200. It's a bit insane. And then the small little lens, this tiny thing I showed you a minute ago, this is $700. It's insane, but you do have that option. So if you're focusing on your budget, you can kind of do what I did. If you go back to the early days of, well, you can't really see the Twitch ones anymore, I don't believe, but I started C920, upgraded to the GoPro, and then finally upgraded to the A6400. When it comes to doing my YouTube videos, both the GoPro and the A6400 do get used in most of my videos, but my primary is almost always the Sony. Now, the main time that the GoPro gets used, if I need a very small form factor, because that is something to consider as well. The GoPro is, this big. It's the size of a credit card. The A6400, while it is a small camera and very lightweight, it is still about 2.5 times the size of the GoPro. So something to consider. The other aspect of doing any sort of recording would be stabilization. The GoPro does win right out of the box compared to the A6400, as it does have its hyper smooth capabilities. That's where I saw the C920 wiggle there. But the hyper smooth does eat the battery and also causes the camera to overheat. A6400 does have some internal stabilization, but it's not as good as the hyper smooth functions. So that's something to consider unless you decide to go with a gimbal. Now, if you go with a gimbal, if you get just a generic, pretty simple, cheap gimbal online, it's almost guaranteed to work with A6400 because it's a medium weight. It's amazingly difficult to find a good gimbal that works with the GoPro. Besides the attachment protocols for the GoPro, not using just a standard 1/4-inch thread adapter, it tends to be too light. And if your if your camera that you're using is too light for your gimbal, it causes issues where it won't actually stabilize or balance. So personally, I prefer the A6400. I have two separate gimbals, one that I bought specifically for the GoPro, and one that I got as a Christmas present that works with the A6400. But the cool thing is, it actually works, that the A6400 works with both. I cannot use the GoPro on my larger gimbal. It's just way too light. The other aspect is not just your gimbal, but also your tripod. So if you're wanting a good high quality tripod, you're going to be spending at least $100. Now you can mitigate that some, but you're still spending some money. So if you're wanting a tripod that has a smooth, motion move back and forth, you can either spend money on a good Manfrotto tripod, which has a nice ball head on it, and you can do so, or you can spend $30 to $50 on a ball mount that attaches directly to the tripod, and that can help smooth things out. So it's something to consider. Now I will have a shot here in a moment that will probably be done with my phone, so it's going to look very funny, showing the setup I have here, just so that we can kind of see what goes into attaching 3 cameras behind you. And of course, all the products that we have here, the cameras, the GoPro, the lighting equipment, the ball joints, the lights, all that, I'll have down in the description below. So that way, if you want to take a look at what all these are and how much they cost, what they do, you have that available. The other fun part is if you have any questions about any of the equipment here or how they work or what they can do, drop me a comment down in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to answer it. Or join me on Discord. I'll answer any questions you have there. Or I also stream quite frequently. Hop into one of my streams and ask any questions you want. I'll happily answer them. If I don't know the answer right off the top of my head, I will get back with you. Usually I'll just add a comment to the video with the explanation for your question. So that's really all I have for these 3 cameras. I just kind of want to show off what the 3 look like in comparison for starting off streaming and the use cases for them. So as I said, if you have any comments, make sure to drop a comment down in the comment section below. And if you like the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with new content as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.